Doshiteru Yokoso YouTube, and welcome to another Total War discussion video, pretty much. I don't know what I'm gonna call these yet, but here we go. Today's theme is going to be team battles, and the team we're going to be standing behind and putting under scrutiny is Agony. And today they're playing it on the Caldera map against the USSR clan. We've got Twitchy, Prussian Prince, and Psychic. They're playing Ludsman, Wheel, and Mariana Cats. So, yeah, today's gonna be team battles, and wow, I was really surprised by how well the last video was received. So, big thanks to all you guys, and I'm really glad you liked the sort of more in-depth approach, less hands, or I'd say more hands off. So yeah, I'm going to try to be doing more of that in the future. Just a little, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I might make this into a weekly or bi-weekly regular thing where people submit replays, and I sort of take the replays and try to form a theme. So let's go ahead and take a look at the map. If you didn't know which map it was, well, it's the map with the lake in the middle that you can walk across. This kind of map, I'd say, really favors any sort of build. I mean, Cav does well here, line infantry does well here, skirmish units do well here. If anything, they do rather well because there's a lot of open space. There's a lot of straight lines. There aren't many places for your infantry to hide, except the sets of trees that sort of surround the lake. And I don't know if both teams sort of have any sort of pre-plan, because this was actually submitted to me by the Prussian Prince, but we're going to take a look at their armies really quickly here in slow motion and start dissecting what they have. So on the right side here is Twitchy from Agony. Excuse me. He's brought a Tosa Rifleman, and he's then brought White Bear, 2 Spear Levies, and a General. So we'll talk about that flank composition in a bit. In the center here, we've got Prussian Prince, who's got 4 units of very good, well-upgraded Black Bear infantry, and an Imperial infantry to top it off here at the bottom. He's brought plenty of cav. He's got 4 units of cav, and we'll see in other battles here in this video that Prussian Prince likes his cavalry. Finally, over here on the left side is Psychic. And Psychic has also a very powerful flank. He has a infantry to marine here, 5 chevrons on those, so that's a really strong flank. And then we have White Bears, Black Bears, an artillery piece, and finally his general's bodyguard, and then we have 2 more units of heavily upgraded Yariki. So I'm just gonna pause so we don't miss anything. Their opponents, well, we'll talk about their opponents in a little bit, but let's talk about their sort of build, and like what sort of thing are they going for and how they lined up. So you can see that the Prussian Prince and Twitchy have sort of wanted to come over here on the right side of the battlefield, and all you really need to do is look at the buildings. The archery dojo, which is by far the most important building in Fall of the Samurai, and the sword dojo, which can be important but isn't really necessarily, especially in a fight like this where it's mostly muskets, but mainly it's high ground. So that's what they're going for here. You can see no one really going for the workshop, but the USSR guys are going for the farmhouse, and the shrine here is being contested by Psychic. So what type of build have these guys brought today? Well, they've brought something that I like to call a balanced build. I mean, they all have a good line infantry, but you could see that they've sort of they have some deviations, and those deviations are very important in line battles. And when you play in team battles like this, where it's a clan versus clan, I'd like to think of it as high-level competition in Total War Shogun 2. It's not your average casual games. These guys play a lot of games. Like, I know Prussian Prince prestige 3 times already or something ridiculous like that. So these guys love to play this game and are very passionate about it. So these little changes that we see in their builds and how they deploy their builds are pretty much, I'd say mostly, all pre-thought about. So you can see the Twitchy brought a lot of powerful cav here on the right side. And Prussian Prince also brought a lot of cav. Prussian Prince, only cav. He's got an Imperial Guard cav, and then he's got a very strong line. And he's supporting with cav with Twitchy on the right side. And the reason they're doing this is because they want to win the fight here. If they don't get the Archery Dojo, they want to win this flank. And they know that in any case, this flank over here under Psychic is sort of like a holding force, and this is very similar to the last fight. You usually see this. You usually see the center and the flank working together on one side. They sort of break their way through, have another area sort of hold its position, and then swoop around, or you just see a standard full-on engagement, but situations like that are very rare. So this is the army of the Agony troops. Let's take a look at the USSR guys. The USSR guys, they have Ludzman. Ludzman has an upgraded line infantry here on the flank. And you know, on the flanks you usually see numeric advantage, or you see some quality, some skirmish, and a lot of cav. But for this type of map, I would have liked more cav here from Ludzman. But Ludzman pretty much has one cavalry unit that he is probably going to banzai into the forces of Twitchy, and then a lot of line infantry. And you know, this could be helpful on the flank because you want to sort of penetrate and like overpower your way through the flank, but we'll see how that goes for him. Over here in the middle, we've got Wheel, and I really don't like when people don't show you the experience on their flags. It's really cheap. Black Bear Infantry, Infantry de Marine, a Tosa Rifleman, and an Azuri Dragon Force. And speaking of Azuri Dragon Force, these pointy helmets, like I've tried looking through, like, you know, records and stuff and some books to see how the infantry looked like, and I didn't see anything with like wigs, or mostly they would have looked something like this. They had like the caps on, sort of like the Vermilion Bird Force, but these wigs are kind of ridiculous. Anyway, over here, Wheel still has a Black Bear, a Kachi, Matsuda, and a United States Marine. So you can see he wants to take the farmhouse. Not really the most important building. I would have liked him to have his troops over here to support his center, but maybe he wants to have these troops sort of in a midway position to help his last remaining ally, who is Mariana, who has a very, 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 very powerful line. You can see he has 2 elite units, and then he has black bears, and a white bear infantry. He barely has any cav. So from the perspective of the Agony team, this pretty much played out nicely to their builds. I mean, they should have the advantage here depending on how well they use their cav, and you can see that Ludzman is just going to basically suicide his cav into all these units. So yeah, they should have the advantage on this flank, but they do have a problem over here on the left side. Psychic, he is going to have a very, very hard time to win on this flank. So what they're going to be doing now, you can see, is just a very, very powerful push. You can see that Prussian Prince is going to run right into the front here, into the center. He is going to lose some units while doing this, but they're going to be both moving their cavalry up here in a minute and starting to get around that line. You can see now Agony needs to be very, very, very sort of upfront about their engagement. And the reason they need to do this is because if they don't, their left flank is going to collapse very quickly. If anything, with the use of cavalry here on this side, Psychic might, at best, sort of cancel out the forces of Mariana. Like, he might be able to either hold off, or he might be able to sort of cancel the attack, but he's definitely not going to win. And Agony knows this very well, and they probably communicated together. And now look at this. This is something that I'm going to show you over and over and over again when we view these battles. The spectacular timing of the charges that Prussian Prince does with his cavalry. He waits for the right moment when they reload, and he gets a clean charge. Look at that. Excellent clean charge, and it's going to be timed nicely with another charge by Twitchy. And now you can see the flank is suddenly looking like it is in the bag for Agony. That cavalry charge was amazing, and you can see still shooting there. still now cleaning up with their cavalry, and this is one of Prussian Prince's strong points. That's why most of the time when he's in the center, you'll see he'll do a straight through charge, and he'll do a lot of damage. And you can see again Twitchy helping with the cav. And the thing I want to focus about mainly here is how well these players are playing together. It feels like they're all being controlled sort of by one army, at least on the Agony side. You can see here on the left flank, Psychic actually is holding his own. He's lost a lot of men. You can see a lot of men lost in his units. And as I said, he's not really going to win this fight, but he might hold it. And now Prussian Prince, since they won on this side, he's going to be able to push his units forward again, and they're going to be able to try and get around the forces of Ludzman, who's slowly coming back to the fight, but he doesn't really have much. They're sort of just coming back into the fight. So why am I showing you this? Well, when you're looking at a team battle, you want to sort of look at how well the teams sort of communicated with each other, how well they executed any sort of plan that we sort of could tell. And in this particular fight, you can see that the USSR guys sort of fought on their own. On the left flank, they just let the flank collapse, didn't pull back at all, almost overconfident. And Agony took a very good advantage of this. They used cav on one side, it was isolated, it couldn't get help. And another thing I want to comment about is just the general lack of cav on the USSR side, and that just tells me it's bad communication. Agony, before going into the fight, probably knew that Prussian Prince was going to bring 4 cav and an Imperial Guard cav. They probably knew that Twitchy is going to bring cav. They probably knew that Psychic is going to get an Armstrong gun to sort of hit. And I don't think that Armstrong gun actually got a lot of kills. No, just 43 kills. So this is the first step in a team battle, after obviously viewing the map and discussing the build, is talking to each other about how you want your build to look like. And usually the person on the left plays on the left flank, the person in the middle plays in the center, and the person on the right plays on the right flank. So you always have a sense of what your center is going to be composed of. And over again now, when we're going to view all these battles here, I've got 3 battles for you today, by Agony, we're going to see how they position their flank and how they compose their center. Because that is really, the center is what the flanks can deal with. If you have a weak center and your flanks win, you could still lose the game. But we're going to see a recurring pattern in that Agony is always going to have either a qualitative advantage, like a superior qualitative advantage, like a lot of very elite units in the center, or they're going to bring a lot of units, a lot of men, a qualitative advantage in the center, and always back it up with that excellent cav micro that Prussian Prince is so well known for. So here goes this fight. What can we say? The only thing we can really say is just the positioning was amazing by Agony. Prussian Prince pushed his troops in initially. He sort of forced the black player here, who is Wheel, to sort of engage, and then he pulled back. And the reason he pulled back is because he wanted this guy to sort of stay focused on him. He sort of moved his men back and forth, and that way they could easily outweigh the flank with their cavalry. And with that done, all that was left is Psychic, who is now beginning to lose the fight, as I expected. But you can see he actually removed a lot of the forces of Mariana, who should have been more aggressive. He definitely should have been more aggressive. He probably should have moved in from the side more, tried to get into the fight as soon as he can, because he did have the advantage in the army build. So let's go ahead and actually move right into the next fight, and I have it marked down here as battle number 38. Here we go. And in this fight, we're on the Saga River, and something that people may not know is that the maps actually changed. Like Saga River, for example, becomes a little bit bigger in certain instances, or like you know, the map expands on the edges and stuff like that. So in team battles, the map mechanics are a little bit different. But anyway, Agony today, Twitchy, Psychic, and Prince, again the same 3, they're playing against Raw. Raw's members are Boss, Weedstar, and Eptic. So Saga River. Saga River, similar to the last map, has a lot and a lot of open plain space. and Agony is going to sort of abuse this in a sense. Let's go ahead and put this in slow motion and start by taking a look at the armies. So over here on this side, we have the Agony troops. And we're going to start with the center this time, sort of to hammer in the last point. And look at this. Infantry Marine, United States Marine, very well upgraded White Bear, very well upgraded Black Bear, very strong cav, and an artillery piece. This is what an ideal center should look like. And again, we'll see this in all the battles today. Their center always has either qualitative or quantitative advantage. It's not sort of in the mix, you know. It's not like they have some bad units and then bolster it with good units. They stick to sort of one side of the extreme, and this works really, really well because the flanks can then adjust to this. On the right side here, Twitchy's brought a Tosa Rifleman, some line infantry, a spear levy, and a lot of cav. And on the left, Prussian Prince has done a very similar thing. A lot of cav. Not very much line infantry, but a good amount of it. And an Imperial Guard cavalry, which actually is sort of like a very good carbine cav. And what they do well here is how they position themselves. So they've got a clear cav superiority, or hopefully on the flanks, and you can see they've already pushed up to secure these buildings. Let's take a look at their opponents. Raw today brought on the right. They've brought a United States Marines, an Infantry Marine, an Imperial Guard Infantry, and another Imperial Guard Infantry, but that's not really going to leave room for anything else. They've also brought an Armstrong gun to the flank, and I'm going to pause and comment about this. This is peculiar. This is something you don't want to do on the flank, in my opinion. If you want to bring an artillery piece on your flank, you simply cannot afford to get these elite units with these upgrades that we're seeing in front of us. I mean, these units are ridiculously expensive. This flank is easy to surround. 4 units, an artillery piece, no cav support. Look at Prussian Prince's forces. He's also got 4 units of infantry, but he's also got 5 extra units of cav. Do you think that artillery is going to really do that much of a difference? No, the answer is no, it's not. So keep in mind that when you're playing these team battles, you always want to have a flank that is strong enough and can deliver oomph in its ability to surround. That's the main thing you want to be looking at. Yeah, sure, stats are very important, but you always want your flank to either have skirmish capabilities, you want it to be able to surround, or you can have a sort of like the idle stationary position of a flank that has an artillery piece, just like we're seeing here, but instead of having just a few elite units, it would have a lot of numbers. It would have reserves. It would be a flank that can take a hit and reform and then sort of push back, and it would always have some cavalry, sort of like the battle you saw with me, Drunkard, and Jello last time, where Drunkard did have an artillery piece, and he had a lot of infantry, and he had cav. That's what a flank should look like. Ideally, this is in a situation like this, Prussian Prince's build counters the build of Eptic to the T, like an exact counter. So let's take a look at their center here. Center is led by Weedstar. So let's see what he's got. There's his general, and look at this. Melee. He's got 2 Tosa Riflemen, Katanakachi, and an Imperial Guard Infantry. And again, this isn't my idea of a center. So it just seems from the way that this is lining up that Agony already has the advantage just because they talked to each other. I don't know what Raw was thinking when they were talking about their army builds, but if this was the center, for example, it probably would have been better for them, just because this is a stronger holding force, but it can easily get surrounded. Let's take a look at the last player before we start talking about their decisions here. We've got Carbine Cav, a Kihitai, a Parrot Gun, Katana... No, that's a ninja. No, it's a Katanakachi. They're called ninjas. And we've got a hidden unit of... What are these? I think they might be Shogunate infantry, or I'm not sure what they are. No, I'm not. No, Tosa Rifleman maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see here. This is curious. Curious choice here by the Raw players. And not really understanding the choices they've made. They've brought a good melee component, but they're going to allow themselves to get surrounded. Look at this now. Twitchy has already sent his cav all the way around, and look what he's doing.